Well, guys, I know I didn't do this when I should have, but as of the 15th of last month, it has been a year since I officially started doing some podcasting courtesy of Anchor.fm, which is a division of Spotify. And ever since then, I've been doing a lot of podcasts, as much as I could. I'm nearing 200, which is surprising. I mean, to reach 100 last year when I did it, and as quickly as I did, was a surprise to me. I even got a congrats from Anthony DeBoss, known as Don Tony, part of the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show, which is a podcast on wrestling and things like that. And yeah, it's been quite a journey. I mean, sure, I've not made that much money as I would hope for. I mean, I just cashed out, what, $26, you know? But it's still growing. I mean, it takes time, especially when you don't do a podcast on a weekly or daily basis. It takes a lot of time. I mean, for someone like me, with my living situation, as I've stated before, I live with my mom, and, sometimes it's, easy to do a podcast, from your house because, my mom is working and I have, time. Well, now I have a lot of time to be able to, do a podcast and, let people know what's on my mind and stuff like that, or just, talk about whatever topics come to my mind. But yeah, it's, besides that, it does get a little tricky because sometimes, especially like during the summer and during Christmas break and in the 1 week of spring break, Easter break, if you will, and some parts of the fall, you have to, just like with YouTube, just like my YouTube channel, you have to basically work around, what's available to you. You got to reschedule, you got to restructure how you do things. For me, when it comes to restructuring and rescheduling, even with the podcast, it's all about timing. The timing basically being, finding the opportunity to, do a YouTube video or do a podcast without interruption. And I know a lot of you out there that have a podcast that gets broadcast both, here on sites like Anchor and Spotify and iHeart and all of them, as well as on YouTube. You can identify with how hard it gets sometimes. Sometimes you have to, let your family know, hey, I'm gonna be doing my podcast. I'm gonna be doing my YouTube video series in a few moments or in a half hour. I don't want to be disturbed. So if there's anything you need, let me know right now. So, you basically got to work around those kind of situations. And sometimes even when you let the people you live with, your family, your mothers, your fathers, your wives, your husbands, your siblings, your cousins or your friends or whatever the case may be, even when you let them know that and it looks like you're in the clear, you're bound to get an interruption. I've talked about this before, but Alex Hicks, known for his Just Alex Central YouTube channel, and his other channel, which is Alex Reviews Everything. Alex knows exactly where I'm coming from, because I remember one time just watching one of his videos, his live streams. And what happened was he had, I think, his brother or his cousin come into his room and ask him for something, and his cousin, brother, whatever it was, did apologize, like, oh, I didn't know you were doing this. So yeah, people like Alex know exactly where I'm coming from. Others like Solid Monster know that. I'm sure good mic work understands that. I know the Schleg Daddy Jeff Siegel, both Schleg Daddy TV and OTRS Central understands that. So a lot of people that, have podcasts that they, showcase and share on both, YouTube and, like I said, the audio podcast areas like Anchor and, Spotify and iHeart and all that. Again, they all understand how, during certain times of the year, it gets a little tricky unless the family you live with, your mothers, your fathers, your parents, if you will, or your siblings or your cousins, have an understanding of, okay, this is what he's working, I don't want to disturb him. Unless they have a better understanding of that, it does get a little hard to do. But it's not a bad thing because, let's be honest, I know sometimes, I'll be told that I kind of like to just isolate myself in my room and be on my computer and play my games and stuff and not be out with family. But the truth is, family comes first, and that's the most important thing. So, I'm willing to basically, because family comes first, I'm willing to reschedule, restructure any video or podcasting schedule I have to do to work around that. I mean, right now, as I'm doing this, it's about 3:27 p.m. Pacific time on the 4th of February, 2021. And I'm walking around my living room right now. I'm walking around the house, and that's why you can hear an echo as well, because I have free range. I have nothing really disrupting me. I'm also utilizing my digital voice recorder, and I'm using a microphone that you would basically attach to a camera to up the audio, make it more professional sounding, if you will. But yeah, I'm able to walk around the house uninterrupted, like I'm in the kitchen right now and everything. And again, I'm able to do all this because I have free range. But when I have my mom home, I have my nephews over, like for the weekend or something, like there is no doubt in my opinion, guys, that next weekend we may have my third oldest nephew here once again, because it's going to be Valentine's Day weekend, and there's a good chance his parents are going to go out. Not saying that's going to happen, but there's a good chance. The point that I'm getting at, guys, is, with any kind of podcast, whether it's YouTube podcast, video podcast, audio podcast, and no matter how long you've been doing it, sometimes you just got to work with what you have. You got to restructure, reschedule what you do. I mean, this is why basically I haven't put up as much, that's why basically, I haven't done as much with the podcasting as I should. And again, like I said, I'm not the only one. I mean, Alex has his own podcast, but he doesn't do it as much, even though he does advertise that you can listen to his podcast. Now, I'm sure his podcast does consist basically of his reviews and things like that, and that's cool. And his review everything videos. But still, not a lot of people have time to go on the podcast because they got other things to do. Like for me, majority of last year, I was working. I was working at Walmart. I was making a good living. I didn't have much to do. I mean, and here's the thing. Even when I was working on a break or on a lunch hour, or after work while I was waiting for the bus, I would find time to probably do a podcast, like a little short subject that I would upload to anchor.fm and have it go from there. Sometimes I would use the mic I'm using, just the mic, the digital, well, not the mic, but the digital voice recorder. I would just use that. Sometimes I would use the voice recorder on my Samsung Android, to try to get stuff out, and it would work. It would work in the end. The thing is, And if you heard anything, that's my dog. She's just waking up from a nap. But like I said, if I had the opportunity, even during my time working at Walmart, I would do it. I'd find a way to do it. And when I'd have time off or a day off, like today, if I was still working, it being Thursday, there's a good chance I would have had this day off. I'd be doing this, and that's it. That is it. I'd be doing this without a problem. I'd be doing my videos without a problem. Again, it's all basically based around schedule and structure, and this is why, depending on how long you've been doing podcasting or YouTubing, not many people have as many videos or audio podcasts out there. I mean, I'm very fortunate when it comes to my main YouTube channel to have over 1,200 videos. That's saying something. That's saying something in a near 13-year career. It's going to be 13 years this July. That's hard to believe, but yeah, it's going to be 13 years. But again, I could have a lot more, but due to the fact that, of my living situations, being with my mom and everything and family coming first, sometimes you just got to work around that. And yeah, it's one of those situations. But to say now that things have changed in a big way would be an understatement. It really would be. It would be a real big understatement. I mean, the fact that, as you heard in one of the podcasts here, several months ago, I no longer work with Walmart. Thus, I've now had to monetize through my YouTube channel. But not only that, and maybe I should put this as a video itself down the line, but who knows? Or an audio podcast version itself down the line, but who knows? My main bank is no more. Yeah. I used to utilize Central Bank of the Midwest as my bank, and I've been utilizing it since the days it was known as Douglas County, and now it's no more. Not because I decided to close it down or anything. No, it's because I had overdrafts, and even though, despite the fact that my first YouTube payment through my monetization went through and helped balance things out, I'll kind of reduce the overdraft a little bit on the 21st of December. 2 days later, they shut me down. And I did a video on this, and I might transition this to audio podcast, an audio file for podcasting, or here on my podcast, so you guys can hear it yourself. But yeah, I had to transition to a new bank, which is Wells Fargo, which is one of the better banks out there. I mean, I know some people have their issues with Wells Fargo and Bank of America and any other bank out there. But this is one of those banks that, is, I believe, a dependable bank. You just got to give it a chance. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to squander my money and all that with it. This is one of those banks from a national perspective, be honest with you, you have to be careful with. You have to really, you really have to be careful and see how you get, and see how your money works out. It's one of those banks that you gotta, really, keep an eye on, and and hopefully you could fall back on. I mean, right now with everything going on, with a lot of us like myself getting EDD and stuff, it's it's one of those situations that, right now our banks are our main backup point. Our banks are our main backup points, and the EDD is our main part, if you will, depending on our situation. But yeah, getting back on topic, I had to go transfer. I've had to, go with Wells Fargo. It's just, It's just a lot has changed. And you would think with me no longer being employed, I'd have a little bit more time, and I do. But I've been more focused at times of getting my YouTube stuff going. And anytime I have a chance, like with this video, I let people know that I also have a podcast and to check that out. Because you never know what you're going to hear on that podcast. You never know what I'm going to talk about. You don't know how long the podcast could go for. It could go for 5 minutes, 15. It could go for an hour and a half. Who knows? My podcast is known as BW Rose's Discussions, and it's because of the fact that I like to talk about a variety of stuff. That's what this podcast series is about. Me talking about a variety of stuff. And sometimes the podcasts are not that long. They're just, long enough for people to enjoy. Like when I do a Topics on My Mind deal, and I decide, okay, I'm also going to do an audio version of it for the podcast, I know people will listen. I know people will listen because it's something they want to hear. Because because they want to see exactly what topics I'm going to bring up. It's one of those situations. It's just one of those situations to where, basically, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to tire myself out doing hour-and-a-half podcasts all the time, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. If that's your choice, go ahead and do it. But I'm not the kind that's going to be like, okay, I'm going to do an hour and a half talking about this, and that's it. No. I take my time. Sometimes if I want to talk about something that interests me and I feel other people will be interested in, yeah, it'll take about maybe, 20 minutes or so. And that's about it, or a half hour or so. Like one of the like a video I just recently did is about 18 minutes long. And if I use the extraction tool to get the audio from it to make it into a podcast, then that's cool too. Because 18 minutes sometimes is probably the length a lot of people will listen to when it comes to the topic I'm going to discuss in that video or in that audio. So yeah, so overall, it's in the end, it's been a heck of a year. It has been one heck of a year, guys, and I really appreciate a lot of you supporting me on the YouTube channel, as well as coming out and supporting me here on my BW Rose's Discussions channel, podcast, I should say. And that's all I can really say right now, guys. So what I'm going to do, and you'll probably notice it in the description, I will provide a link to each area where you can listen to the podcast at. I have, like I said, almost nearly close to 200. So whatever suits your fancy, it's there. The most listened to right now, I'll tell you this right now, the most listened to is my review of Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. That's the one that got the most views so far. And there are others that are creeping up on it. But that one right there really is like it just took off. So, but there are, like I said, a variety of stuff out there, guys. There's a variety of things you can listen to. So if I'm you, and I love listening to people's perspectives and thoughts on a variety of things, check out this channel. Keep checking it out. Let your friends know about it. And that's all I'm going to really say. So till next time, guys, take care. God bless. Stay safe. Get vaccinated, if you want. I'm sure that's going to be an optional choice. But get vaccinated if you want to. Again, like I said, stay safe. And that's all I could say. So I'll talk to y'all later, guys. Take care. And thank you all for your support.